Welcome everyone. So just finished the campaign fully on my Lich dot build, and this video will just be a very quick first impressions and feedback as to the build, what I did for the league start, and how the ascendancy feels, as well as some very quick details of some of the interactions on Eternal Life and how some of its mechanics work. So, time played, just scratched in under 15 hours. Didn't rush through the campaign, took my time really. Not a speed runner by any stretch. Like I said, ran a dot build, so my primary skills that I used were Essence Drain with Contagion, as well as Dark Effigy and Despair. So very quickly, just covering the skills to begin with. Contagion, running Unleashed. This is, I dare say, almost mandatory, just helps tremendously in terms of applying Contagion to as many targets as possible to get the spread happening a lot easier. And Magnified Effect is simply just to increase the spread radius. Again, just making it easier to spread. Primary damage ability being Essence Drain, Swift Affliction, more damage multiplier, Chain. Again, wouldn't go as far as saying mandatory, but very highly recommend. Unleashed on Contagion plus Chain on Essence Drain just makes clearing packs and spreading your dots just so much easier. So it's very much quality of life support gem. 3 links here with Zenith. I'll touch upon the ascendancy choices in a moment, but basically the choice just before Eternal Life swaps your inherent mana regen to be based on life percentage. So TLDR is basically you get almost just under twice as much mana regen, so mana is almost not a problem, so you're almost always sitting above 90% except for when you cast your curse. So again, a more damage multiplier, good value. Ran Withering Presence simply due to a lack of anything else to really run. Don't run Flame Wall, and Raging Spirits has got nerfed. Running Chaos Dots as well, so this helps quite a lot. Persistence just make the applied Withering last longer, so you get more stacks. And just a bit of extra mana regen. Main curse we run is Spare, just more Chaos damage due to lowering the Chaos resistance. Decaying Hex just for a little bit more dot damage, and Hardened Curse to increase the magnitude of the minus resistance. Completely optional. Dark Effigy I find quite handy. It's very quick to throw out and costs almost no mana. Basically just attacks any target with dots on it, so a bit more damage. Quicker placement just so you're not getting stuck within the cast animation. And cast speed as well, both just basically make it super quick to put down. So typical rotation simply for 1 or 2 mobs would be just Essence Drain by itself with Chain, packs, Contagion plus Essence Drain, or Essence Drain plus Contagion depending on how quickly mobs are dying. 4 bosses or rares, put down the Curse as well as Dark Effigy just for a bit of extra debuff and damage. And that pretty much covers it. The whole experience throughout the campaign was relatively smooth. Obviously, Essence Drain plus Contagion, although it does have, I'd say, mid to high quality of life clear for big packs, it can be a little bit clunky. It's not just a simple one-click button and everything explodes, so you do have to wait for things to spread with Contagion or Essence Drain, and just the nature of damage over time as well, it does take a few seconds. But if you've get lucky with decent gear, mobs do die quite quickly. Had very little problems. Onto the passive tree quickly. In terms of the ascendancy choices, basically went down the right side for Soulless Form and Eternal Life. Soulless Form, pretty much for the 2 bottom lines, what this does is your inherent mana regen typically is 4% of your mana pool. That is replaced instead by 6% of your max life. During the campaign, quite often, if you look at my globes down the bottom at the end of the campaign, a bit more skewed now to almost be 1-to-1 at 1,000 each. But even that is a 50% increase. So 4% of my mana compared to 6% of my health here would mean 50% more mana regen if working off of the life, since it's almost the same value. Earlier on in the campaign, you're typically actually running more life than mana. And when I first selected this node, I think my mana regen went from increased by almost 60 or 70%. Later on, selecting Eternal Life basically allows you to have the damage bypass energy shield effectively just be a flat damage reduction of 10%, since your life can't actually reduce. So that 10% which goes past your energy shield just gets completely ignored. And we'll get to it a bit later, but just quickly touch you where you get another 5% here as well. Highly recommended. Get this near the end of the campaign. I got it at about level 55 or so for about 10 exalted orbs. If you're on Trade League, you can pick up this relatively soon, and that gives you another 10% bypass. So 10%, 5%, another 10%, you've basically got 25% damage reduction. During the campaign, basically, in terms of the passive tree choices, started down basically this left side going straight up here into these nodes and these nodes. So basically very much focusing just on all the damage nodes for chaos damage and generic spell damage here. Then branched off to the left here for more chaos damage and a bit of defense. I picked these nodes up basically as need be when I found that I needed just a little bit more of a mana regen bump. So these are good high value nodes here, as well as a 30% energy shield. Again, when you're finding you need a little bit more defense, another high value energy shield node just very close to our pathing over here. Then continued up here, picked up these chaos damage nodes. Then this very high value energy shield node, plus with our ascendancy, that flat 5% damage reduction as well. And finished off by coming up through here, picking up these chaos damage nodes, including plus chaos skills, high value energy shield node, bit of intelligence. Through here, this cluster of chaos damage, and at the very tail end, starting to path through into a semi-end mid-game build using Eternal Youth, so can be a bit more proactive with keeping your energy shield up, which is your primary layer of defense. And then I'll probably, once I start mapping now, we'll pick up this cluster of chaos damage nodes to wrap things up before then reassessing how the build's functioning in the maps and what may potentially need to change before deciding where I go further. In terms of gearing, really the only things you really want to focus on in terms of looking out for, like I said, once you get over level 40 and if you've been lucky and been saving up your exalted orbs, picking this helmet up is very good value. The other two things that I really looked out for in terms of vendors and picking up ground loot was wands and focus, and very much just looking out for plus level to skills. I got this near the tail end of the campaign. I was running a +3 levels to chaos skills, which is a bit easier to find. I've sold probably 3 or 4, so I did get quite a few +3, but I was picking up pretty much all the ones on the ground using my orbs of augmentation transmutation and looking at vendors quite regularly as well for those. So +3 levels here, got quite lucky with this focus, as I think I got this as an actual ground drop with spell damage roll as well. It was energy shield, so this was very good, carried me quite a bit, this combo. Everything else was pretty much just whatever I happened to get. Boots Movement speed helps tremendously during the campaign, so got quite lucky with this as well. Although I was running a 10 and a 15% progressive, just again, checking vendors for movement speed boots helps a lot. So that pretty much covers it in terms of the build and what I ran. The only thing to wrap up on is very quickly, without actually doing any demonstrations, so you're just going to have to take my word for it for now. I'll probably do another video to cover these topics, but there was a lot of debate before the patch went live as to how certain things would behave with Eternal Life. So obviously the bypass works and works as a damage reduction, but the other question marks were whether sacrifice works and whether things like blood magic and life tap work. So blood magic and life tap convert your spell costs into using life instead of mana. So the theory crafting was, well, since you can't take any life damage, whether your spells can be cast. I think I can actually demonstrate this in town. I do have a life tap gem which I was testing things on, and if we apply that to our Essence Drain and now try and cast Essence Drain, you can see it won't actually let me. So since you can't actually use your life, you can't pay the costs and it won't let you cast. So haven't specifically tested it with blood magic, but I assume it works in the same manner. So life tap and blood magic do not work with Eternal Life. The other one is I also on trade picked up some Demon Stitches. Can't really demonstrate this in town, but again, lost some energy shield, went and casted a few spells with these, and sacrifice doesn't sacrifice anything since your life can't change, and since you sacrifice nothing, you get no energy shield in return. So you basically sacrifice 0 and you get no energy shield. So sacrifice doesn't appear to work with Eternal Life either. So that about covers it. As always, if you found anything helpful, subscribe, like, comment, share what builds you did for your Lich. And thanks everyone.